So I'm not really supposed to be buying any books because I'm going on a year-long road trip in a few short months. And somehow this year I have already acquired 52 books. Whoops. Hey y'all, howdy. Welcome to One for the Books. I'm Sandra Broadwell. So I have a book buying hobby. I'm not going to call it a problem because I have disposable income and I enjoy it. So mind your business. But today I just thought I would kind of run through the 52 books that I have now that I didn't have at the start of the year. Of those, 30 are paperback, 11 are hardcover, and 11 are ebooks. I might skip talking about the ebooks just to keep the link of this video a little bit more in hand, but we'll see how I'm feeling after I talk through the rest of them. So, of the books that I have acquired, I bought 19 of them from a local nonprofit bookstore. I bought 15 of them from Amazon. 9 of them were gifts because my birthday happened in these first 4.5 months. 4 of the books I got from Half Price Books. 4 of them I bought from local indie bookstores, and 1 of them I got from a little free library in my neighborhood. Of the ones that were physical copies instead of ebooks, 25 of them have been used and 16 have been new. And I have already read 18 of the books that I have bought. I have not read 32 of them, and 2 of them I DNF'd after attempting to read. So that's maybe not a great track record, but that's where we're at. And then finally, of the books that I paid for, my average cost per book so far this year is $7.73. So that average cost includes a bunch of books that I have bought for personal research, including a used textbook, which was $37. So that's dragging the overall cost per book a little bit high, but that is my overall average. Okay, so let's drag some of these books on screen, shall we? This is my stack of paperbacks, which you can't even see the top of. Oh God. Oh, and there's the bottom of the stack. Okay, that's good enough. And then I also have this stack of paperbacks. I have this stack of hardbacks. So let's dive into it, and I'll just talk about these very briefly, where I got them and why I picked them up. Starting with The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. This is the book that I picked up from a little free library. So the blurb on the inside says, "Between life and death, there is a library. Up until now, Norseed's life has been full of misery and regret. She feels she has let everyone down, including herself. But things are about to change. When she finds herself in the Midnight Library, she has a chance to make things right. The books in the Midnight Library enabled Nora to live as if she had done things differently. Each one contains a different life, a possible world in which she has made different choices that play out in an infinite number of ways, affecting everyone she knew as well as many people she never met." So, sounds great, intriguing. I want to read it. In My Dreams, I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. I just read this last month, and it's a thriller about a group of friends. One of them was murdered when they were in college, and when they go back for their 10-year college reunion, things start to unravel and the mystery is dredged back up. The Final Strife by Sarah L. Arifi is a first book in a fantasy trilogy that I read back in February. It is about a caste system society that is very unequal, and there is lots of oppression of the lower classes and a group of people who are seeding a rebellion against the upper class. Very good. Gave this 4 stars. When Women Were Dragons by Kelly Barnhill is a book about women who can actually turn into dragons, from what I understand. Sounds really cool. City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert. I have honestly no idea what this is about. I think it's about vaudevillian actors in like the 1920s or something like that. I'm not 100% sure. I picked this up because my friend Chrissy recommended it and told me that I would probably like it. I'm planning a vlog later this year where I read books recommended by friends, so when I saw this for cheap, I picked it up. The Atlas Six by Olivia Blake. This is a dark academia magical academy vibe book, and I've heard a lot of booktubers talk about it. Sounds pretty cool. Our Missing Hearts by Celeste Ng. This is a dystopian novel about a little boy that goes in search of his mom, and I am hoping to read this later this month. Cloud Cuckoo Land by Anthony Doerr. So I think this is one of those like multiple timelines, people's different stories across centuries kind of intertwining in some weird and interesting ways. I don't really know very much about this, but the Poptimist mentioned it and really sold it to me, so I picked it up. The 1619 Project is a series of essays that reframes our understanding of American history by placing slavery and its continuing legacy at the center of our national narrative. I've heard this book is super important and should have been taught in schools. Certainly wasn't when I was in school, so I wanted to educate myself. Okay, that's it for the hardbacks. So now we'll get into this giant stack of paperbacks. The Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury. I actually read this back in middle school, so I'm counting it as having read it. I would like to read it again someday. It had a pretty lasting impact on me. I still think about this book, even though that was a couple decades ago. I just thought this cover was really cool and went for it. Letters to a Young Poet by Rainier Maria Rilke. I just read this last month. It is a series of letters from a famous poet to an aspiring poet, and it is very beautiful and lyrical and inspiring. The Island of Dr. Moreau by H.G. Wells. I picked this up because I later this year hope to read The Daughter of Dr. Moreau by Sylvia Moreno Garcia, and I always find that it makes it more impactful to read a retelling if you've read the source material, and I had not. And since this is so tiny, I thought it'd be an easy one to get through. The Slow Regard of Silent Things by Patrick Rothfuss. I just read this in April. This is a short story that goes along with the Kingkiller Chronicles by Patrick Rothfuss. I thought this was just okay, definitely not as good as the two novels in the series. The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. I read this in January and absolutely loved it. Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I have never read any Austen, and I went to see the Kentucky Shakespeare Company put on a performance of Pride and Prejudice at the Kentucky Center for the Performing Arts with two of my girlfriends earlier this year, and it was a blast. They had like remade it into a comedy, and I was laughing out loud. And I also really enjoy the 2005 Keira Knightley movie of Pride and Prejudice, and so I thought, well, if I really like the movie and I really like the play, I should probably finally read the book. So sometime this year, hoping to get to this. Mexican Gothic by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. Everyone talks about this book. I'm excited to read it. The Dove Keepers by Alice Hoffman. This is, I believe, about, what is it about? Oh, it has a nice map on it. So honestly, I'm not entirely sure. I picked this one up because my friends, the Crosslands, recommended this book to me. They read it in their book club, and this was one that I was picking up as well for the Reading Books Recommended by Friends vlog that I'm planning to do later this summer. I think this is about a series of women. It's kind of loosely based on a true story of some women who were being persecuted, and they escaped to a mountain with a small community and were basically under siege by the Roman Empire. Maybe. I'm not entirely sure, but sounds interesting. Aleph the Unseen by G. Willow Wilson is about a hacker and a genie. I am planning to do a genie-inspired reading vlog later this summer as well, so pick this up for that one. Seven Eves by Neil Stevenson is another one that I picked up for my upcoming vlog where I read books recommended by friends. This is a sci-fi novel that my brother recommended to me several years ago, and I have never gotten around to it because it's a chonker, but I always hear great things about Neil Stevenson and what a fantastic writer he is, so this is going to be the one that I pick up. Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. I actually read this back in November, but I had borrowed a copy from my friend. And then Robin Wall Kimmerer came to speak in my city last month, and my friend who was helping put on the event gifted me this copy, which is brand new at the event. So that was super awesome. I actually got to meet Robin Wall Kimmerer, and she is just as eloquent and amazing in real life as she is in this indigenous wisdom, scientific knowledge, and the teachings of plants. It's nonfiction. It's beautiful. A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. I believe this is a fantasy novel in which there are multiple different Londons, and each London has a different type of magic. Maybe that's kind of all I know, but I hear people really love this book and it sounded really intriguing. Kind of reminded me of Neverwhere, which is a novel I read by Neil Gaiman several years ago, and the concept sounded similar, and I really liked that book. The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches is a cozy fantasy about a witch that goes to help train younger witches how to be witches or something like that. I've only read 2 cozy fantasy novels previously. I read Legends and Lattes and The House in the Cerulean Sea. Absolutely loved Legends and Lattes, and I thought House in the Cerulean Sea was just okay. So I have a little bit of a hit or miss record with cozy fantasy, so I'm intrigued to see what I'll think of this one. But I love anything to do with witches. Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott is some instructions on writing in life. It is a memoir and it is supposed to be inspirational for writers. So I picked this one up at the same time that I picked up several other books on writing and hope to get to that sometime later this year. Story Genius by Lisa Cron is a nonfiction book for aspiring writers about how to craft your plot of your story around your character arc instead of forcing your character arc to fit your plot. And it was super helpful. Obviously, I tabbed up a lot of it when I read it earlier this year, but also I thought her advice was a little too prescriptive and a little too there's only one right way to do things, which I absolutely don't agree with. Nevertheless, thought this was really helpful and insightful in a lot of ways that made me think about my writing differently. Save the Cat Writes a Novel is a story about plot structure. So I think the combination of these 2 books I would recommend to anyone who is interested in potentially writing or crafting a novel. World War Z by Max Brooks is about a zombie apocalypse. I did see the movie several years ago. I don't really remember anything about it, but I was thinking about doing a reading vlog where I read several different books all about zombies. And so I picked this one up for that. I don't know if I'll ever get around to that, but this is supposed to be a good book. Miss Benson's Beetle is a historical fiction about a woman that travels to South America, maybe, in search of an elusive golden beetle that she read about when she was a child. No one's even really sure if it exists, but she's led a kind of boring life, and she's kind of this spinster, has nothing really going for her, and she decides she's finally gonna go on this great adventure. I mostly picked it up because I like bugs. Yeah, so because it's about a beetle, I just thought it sounded cool. That's not a joke. I really do. I really do like bugs. Okay, The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers is supposed to be kind of a quintessential found families queer space story. So probably going to read this one next month for Pride Month. So this is a book I bought for research. This was the most expensive book I bought this year. It's a used textbook. It was like $37 or $38. The World of Late Antiquity. This is mostly about the Byzantine Empire. It is related to a project that I am working on, so I bought it as a reference. The Saint Who Would Be Santa Claus. Also, St. Nicholas lived during the Byzantine Empire, so that is related to the other book. They kind of go hand in hand for what I'm working on. And then the last 3 books that I have here are The Traitor Baru Cormorant, The Monster Baru Cormorant, and The Tyrant Baru Cormorant. So this is a trilogy about, I believe what it is about is a young girl whose country or place that she lives is taken over by this kind of evil empire, and she joins the evil empire in order to basically take it down from the inside, I think is kind of what it's about. So my husband gifted these to me for my birthday this year, and I am super excited to read these within the next couple of months. So those are all the physical books that I bought. Now I also bought several ebooks. I bought Benti, which was a sci-fi novella that I read in February about a young girl from Africa who gets accepted to a very prestigious intergalactic university. And then I bought 3 books by Angela Ackerman that again are more like reference books that I won't read so much as reference, but they're called the Emotion Thesaurus, the Emotional Wound Thesaurus, and the Conflict Thesaurus. So I've heard these recommended by lots of different writers over the last year or so. And so because I am hoping to write a novel later this year, I thought they would be just a good thing for me to be able to look at from time to time for inspiration. I also bought For the Emperor by Sandy Mitchell, which was a Warhammer book that I read in January, a book that my husband recommended. And it was really fun pulp sci-fi. And then the rest of the ebooks that I bought or that I acquired this year were gifts from my brother. So I got Cultish by Amanda Montell, which is a nonfiction book about how cults use language to not manipulate, to enrapture the audience and their cult members. And it was a really, really good read. Then I bought Children of Memory by Adrian Tchaikovsky, which I think is the second or third book in the Children of Time series, but it was the only one that wasn't available on Libby. So I'm planning to read the first two books on Libby later this year, but because the third book wasn't available for some reason, I went ahead and got it on ebook. Then I read Turning Darkness into Light by Marie Brennan, which is a companion novel to the Memoirs of Lady Trent series. I read that in March this year. It was really fun. I gave it 4 stars. And the last one was The World We Make by N.K. Jemisin. It was not available on Libby, so I asked my brother to get it for me for my birthday. And then the 2 books that I DNF'd, Telling the Map by Christopher Rowe. I attempted to read this last month, and it's a series of short stories that are speculative. I read the first 2 and was just getting 3-star vibes from both of them, so I wasn't super inspired to continue when I have so many other good books to read. And the last one was called Rebel of the Sands by Alan Hamilton. I bought this for the genie-inspired reading vlog I'm planning to do this summer, but after buying it, I heard some pretty negative reviews of it from some booktubers that I really trust, so I just decided I have plenty of other books to choose from for that vlog, and I'm just going to unhaul it probably pretty soon. There's a few other books that I bought for research that I don't really want to talk about yet because it will reveal a little too much about what my writing project is going to be, and I'm not ready to talk about that yet. Those are all of the books that I bought or acquired so far in 2023. Hey, so that's not actually true. I totally forgot to mention 4 different books that I have, and they were even on the list in front of me, but I just forgot to mention them. So I wanted to cut in here. This is editing Sandra. To correct myself. So an ebook that I bought earlier this year was Babel by R.F. Kuang. I still haven't gotten to this one, but I am super stoked to read it because I adored the Poppy War trilogy. I also purchased Birds of Opulence because it was an autographed copy from a local author, Crystal Wilkinson, and read it in February. The Space Between Worlds is another book that I picked up earlier this year that I read in February. It is a sci-fi by Micaiah Johnson that I gave 4 stars. It was a really fun read. And the last one is Piranesi by Susanna Clark, which is a very cool atmospheric fantasy novel. It was a very short read. I forgot about Piranesi and The Space Between Worlds because my sister-in-law is borrowing them right now, so they just weren't in my stack of physical books like they would have been when I was filming this video. So anyway, yeah, those are the 4 books that I forgot to mention. I really need to control myself because of this year-long road trip I'm about to embark on. I'm probably only going to be able to take like 10 physical books with me, and so far I have like 32 unread books that I now physically own. So maybe it'll be like a book haul all over again after the year road trip is over and I get to like unpack all these books that I haven't read yet, but I'm going to try and read as many of them as I can before we hit the road. So we'll see how that goes. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this book haul, and as always, be kind, read books, and hit the subscribe button below for more bookish content to come. I'll see you next time.